Corruption by P.K. Armstrong. Chapter 21. Angel? Aiden, what's up? Violet is in my office. I asked her if she had called you, but she said no, so I thought I should call. What are you talking about? Violet thinks someone followed her today. Angel made her way to Sinclair Academy coolly, but at a high rate of speed. When Violet first began her recovery from the attack over a year ago, she often had episodes of suspicion where she felt extremely afraid and vulnerable. She would think someone was watching her or someone was going to kidnap her. To help her, Angel and her father, and sometimes Christopher, would teach Violet how to tell when someone was following you and what to do if someone big or strong grabbed her or kidnapped her. All the while, Francine helped Violet take a more realistic view of fear. Angel hit the call button on her steering wheel. Roland. Hey, it's me. Although she only spoke 3 words, Roland could hear the stress in her voice. Angel, what's wrong? Can you meet me at Sinclair Academy? Sure. Is Violet okay? No, Aiden called. Violet thinks someone was following her. Angel arrived at the turn-in to Sinclair at the same time as Roland. She suspected he used the sirens. Both of their vehicles were waved through the security checkpoint. She was a special friend to Ella Sinclair, the founder of Sinclair Academy, and after the work he did on Violet's case, Roland had been added to that list. All security and faculty knew them, which is why they were never stopped by staff. They parked in visitor parking, and Roland got out and met Angel at the back of her car. Angel, what happened? Angel noted Roland's agitation, and it warmed her heart to know Violet meant so much to him. Let's go to Aiden's office. They are waiting for us there. Roland, ever the gentleman, reached the outer doors to the building first and opened the door for Angel. As she passed him, his arm came around her with his hand pressing into the small of her back. It was surprisingly comforting. Aiden had put a lot of work into Sinclair Academy after the assault on Violet. Angel had hired him to revamp the perimeter, beef up security within its fences, and he was the architect of a state-of-the-art monitoring system. He too played an integral part in Violet's recovery. Angel discovered that during the rough times when Violet's fears became overwhelming, she could often be found doing her homework or reading in a small, comfortable chair in his office. Violet felt safe with him, just like she did with Roland. Violet spotted Roland and was on her feet instantly. Running to him and jumping up into his arms, whether he was ready or not, he always was, and swung the small girl into the air, giving her a kiss on her cheek. Detective Christopher! Violet shouted. You're back! I am. Did you miss me? Yes. Did you miss me? I did, but I love the pictures and cards you sent. It made things not so lonely. Violet beamed at the compliment. Angel smiled at Violet's enviable freedom to speak the truth. She watched as Roland, with Violet still in his arms, walked over and shook Aiden's hand. Penrod? Aiden grasped Roland's hand. Roland? Angel walked into the office further. Thanks for calling, Aiden. Of course. He looked at Violet in Roland's arms. Violet? Angel looked over at Roland, still holding Violet, and her heart swelled with pride and affection. It was another thing she loved about Roland. He never put Violet down or stepped away from her until she was ready. She would tap him on the shoulder and say, "Put me down, Detective Christopher," or would giggle and wiggle free from his embrace. This time she made no move to get down. Roland squatted until her feet hit the floor, with his arms still wrapped around her. Violet, are you okay? Can you tell us what happened? He asked gently. Violet looked at him, then Angel, then back to Roland, and nodded solemnly. He led her to the leather executive sofa and sat down, placing her next to him. Angel moved to sit on her other side, and Violet grasped Roland's hand before moving closer to Angel as she put her arm around her. Take your time, Violet, Angel encouraged. Violet took a deep breath. We went on a field trip to the Science Museum today. She looked at Angel. I told you about it. Angel nodded. The whole class went on the bus, but when we got there, we were divided up into teams of 3. I was with Shayna and Brianna. We didn't have to stick with the rest of the class, but we did have to stick together. We went from station to station playing the games and doing the puzzles. And at first it was fine. Where did you first think someone was following you? Angel prompted. I saw him first at the sand pendulum. Roland smirked. Big word, he teased. Violet looked at him with a grin. I practiced. Angel was getting a little impatient. So at the sand pendulum, Roland turned his smirk on her and Angel rolled her eyes at him. Yeah, I was watching the pendulum draw in the sand and I looked up and he was watching me. And that was the first time you saw him? Angel asked. Yes, but then we went to the electricity exhibit and I saw him again. She took a deep breath and grabbed Angel's hand. You remember what Jerry taught me? When we walked away from the exhibit, I realized he didn't have a kid with him, so I was suspicious. So, at the water table exhibit, I grabbed Sheena and Brianna's hands and made them go back the wrong way towards the electric exhibit, and I watched him in the reflection in the glass. He stopped a little bit, like he was confused because it was, well, it was the wrong direction. Roland finished her story for her. So you knew he was following you because when you went the wrong way, he did too? Violet nodded enthusiastically. I did it right, didn't I? Roland, Aiden, and Angel looked at each other and grinned, and Angel finally answered. An awesome job. Roland added, I know cops who couldn't do it better. Violet took the praise graciously and then hesitated. But I didn't know him. Does he work for the man that hurt me? The one that is in jail? Angel shook her head. Then this is about my real mom and my dad, the bad cop? Roland's eyes widened and he looked sharply at Angel, who shrugged. Sorry, I had to tell her. She glanced at Aiden, who looked confused, and with a motion of her hand she indicated she would explain later. She turned Violet around so she could look her in the eyes. Violet, I'm not sure what it's about because I'm not sure who followed you today. Violet smiled. You believe me? You believe I saw what I saw? She said rather excitedly. Roland put his hand on her shoulder. Of course we do, Violet. Angel nodded in agreement and added, So I think the first step in this investigation, young lady, is to figure out who that was that followed you. But how do we do that? Well, I'm hoping you can tell me what he looked like and maybe even what he was wearing. Violet paused a minute and then began. He wasn't tall like Detective Christopher or Mr. Aiden. He was skinny. He was wearing tan pants and a flowered shirt. She looked at Angel. Like the one Jerry wears when he's cooking on the grill, but different colors. Angel smiled encouragingly. Got it. What else do you remember? His hair was black, but had some gray in it. Think about his eyes staring at you. What color are they? Violet closed her eyes and then opened them quickly. Green, like mine. After speaking to Violet, they left since their brave little girl assured Angel, Roland, and Aiden that she felt perfectly safe at Sinclair Academy. You two make excellent parents, Aiden had said while he watched Christopher take his leave of Violet. Then, because Angel had a slight look of discomfort, in loco parenti, he corrected. Angel had nodded and briefly explained to Aiden about what was going on. Aiden had asked for pictures of Stan Granger to hand out to security, and then walked Violet back to the class. Angel and Roland watched as she chatted nonstop and skipped to keep up with him as they walked down the hallway to the back entrance of the building. Roland and Angel stood in the parking lot at her car. It was a beautiful day, sunny with a light breeze. Roland watched Angel staring out over the Sinclair Academy campus and the rock wall that spread out beyond it. He sensed she was worried, but her head was in the case, so he suspected she would not welcome comfort or even to be touched right now, especially since they had not quite worked through their earlier argument that had flared at the police department, and he wasn't quite sure how she felt about him. So, against his utmost desire, he kept his arms to his sides and stood with her, waiting patiently. Was it me, Or was it creepy when she said the guy had green eyes just like me? You suspect it was Stan Granger too, right? Roland nodded. Yeah, it was my first thought. I mean, of course, it could have been just any freak, but with this case, I'm leaning towards Granger. Why, though? She thought a minute. Do you think it's because my dad started asking questions? Or is it just a coincidence that Granger, who is possibly involved in the death of Simon Rain, has taken notice of Violet? Roland sighed. I don't know. I'll pull tape from the Science Center to see if I can spot the guy and verify it's Granger. Angel gave a nod of acknowledgement. What are you going to do? He asked. Angel knew what she wanted to do. She wanted to confront Stan Granger about why he was following Violet. She also knew Roland was right. They needed to identify the guy first. She looked at Roland. Let me know what you discover from the video at the Science Center, she said. I have an appointment to speak with Ruth Mayberry in, she glanced at her phone, an hour and a half, and now, even more than before, I have questions to ask her. She started to walk away, but was stopped by Christopher saying, Angelica Dale. Angel stopped, turned, and looked at Roland questioningly. Thank you, he said. She looked even more puzzled. For what? For calling me, for wanting me here with Violet. And you. Angel walked back towards Christopher and reached out to him. Grabbing his hands, she looked at him seriously, but with a small smile. Of course we want you here. You are part of our family. Roland was tall, and she had to get up on her tippy toes to kiss him on his cheek. Thank you for coming. She paused and then chuckled. You used the siren, didn't you? Yes, I did.